Good morning. Thank you all for joining us today. The South Metro Young Professionals Committee has a mission to create opportunities for like-minded individuals through programs like this one for you to engage with your peers and others in the Bloomington and South Metro area. I'm Steve Furlong from Mortgages Unlimited. Our company and Star Choice Credit Union are sponsors of the South Metro Young Professionals Group, and that makes events like this possible. And Molly McCabe is in the room here somewhere, and she is from Star Choice, so thank you for sponsoring. Along with Molly and myself, we have two other committee members in the room, Travis Richards from Ameriprise and Paige Vigil from the Nerdery, who will be introducing our speakers in just a moment. And Laura Messner is our chamber liaison for our group. Hey. Thank you, Laura, for all that you do to keep us on track. So we are looking for additional committee members. We meet the first Thursday of every month in this room from 9 to 10. And we're specifically looking for assistance in event planning for our future events later this year. Someone lost a tie clip, and Anna, who was just here a moment ago, has it. So if you're missing your tie clip, she has it. Today's event, using technology to streamline your business, is designed to introduce one or more tools that you may potentially integrate into your everyday activities. Please welcome Paige Vigil from the Nerdery, and she will introduce our presenters.
Thanks, Steve. We also have Twitter handles and hashtags if you guys want to follow us along on social media. Thanks for that introduction, Steve. Like you said, I am a member of the Chamber. I also work here as a senior software project manager in Bloomington at a company called the Nerdery, located here in Bloomington. I will be speaking today about Echosign and Google Drive. We also have Terry Lowe here, who is the CEO at Byte Technology. He's going to be telling you guys a little bit about Google Analytics. He's also a part of the Chamber of Commerce. So as Steve was saying, there's a lot of really great benefits to joining the Chamber of Commerce. You get to do really fun activities like this and be a panelist about something that you're possibly a subject matter expert in. We have Meghan Wilker, who is the COO of Clockwork, who's sitting next to me here. Many of you probably found us through our meetup group that we just started, and Meghan has a meetup group for digital project managers, if that's something that you're interested in learning more about and being around like-minded individuals. And then we also have Bob Stanke, who is the Senior Director of Digital Media, which is a mouthful, Bob, for the Minnesota Timberwolves. He's going to be talking to us about Evernote. Bob and I actually connected through LinkedIn, so if you guys aren't using LinkedIn, it can be a really great tool to help you guys network. Sorry, I don't think I said what Meghan was speaking about. She's going to talk to us a little bit about IFTTT, if this, then that, and a little bit about how you can use your calendars to better optimize your everyday workflow. So I'm just going to kind of jump right into Echosign here. So some of you might use Echosign, some of you might not use Echosign, but basically if you're not using Echosign, what you're likely doing to get signed documents is sending your document through the signee. They're going to download it, print it off, sign it with a piece of pen and paper, right? Scan it, and then send it back to you. You're going to archive it and hope that 2 years later you can find it. Echosign eliminates a couple of those steps for you and just makes it really easy for you to manage. It's just as legally binding as a pen to paper signature, and that's probably one of the most important questions that you have turning through your mind right now. When you send the document, you can kind of see, get it signed here in seconds. You can select a workflow. So if you need an MSA, a scope change signed, they have, different workflows that you can select. When you actually click start, right, you can pick who you're going to send it to, and you can also pick a CC just like you would with a regular email. The person that you're CCing can see that you sent the document, and they can also see when you get it signed. You can easily download a PDF just right from there in case you want to archive it, right? And then, it really has this manage button. That's probably one of my absolute favorite things about Docs. And we actually have, I pulled up my my Echosign here so I can show you guys a little bit about what the interface looks like, because it's just really easy and intuitive to use. Probably see who I'm sending some of my documents to, but that's okay. So here you can filter by name or company, right? You can filter by document status. You can filter by document owner, right? So if you're getting documents sent to you. And then you also have a spot down here. I have huge fingers apparently. Where you can see the history of the document, any notes in the document, you can protect the document, right? So there's just a ton of easy things that you can do through Echosign. Okay, so with Echosign, one of the nice things is that you can actually see if they viewed your document, right? So, we send out the documents 2 days later, we're sitting there scratching our heads. Did they read it? Do they hate it? I don't really know. So you can see when they actually read your document, and then you can send them a quick email. Hey, I saw that you read this. Do you have any questions, comments, concerns? And then you can also send them a quick reminder through Echosign, which I found actually feels a little bit less intrusive than if you were to just send them an email, a personal email, right? So those are a couple of my really favorite things through Echosign that you can do. It also just stores them all on there. So like I said, 2 years later, you're not forgetting what you called that folder. So then Google Plus, Google Drive. I'm sure many of you have Gmail accounts, but you're probably not using them to the full extent that they can be used. So I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about Google Drive and what it is in case you're not using it, and then a couple ways that you can actually enhance your Google and Gmail experience. So what Google Drive is secure cloud storage and file backup. So just like you kind of are on your own computer's hard drive, I'm sure you're all creating folders within folders, right? You can do that right on Google. It's not going to bog down your computer's memory, right? You can create Word documents, Excel documents, PowerPoint documents, all right in Google Drive. So you can kind of see document presentation, spreadsheet, drawing, right? You can download these right to Word documents, right to PowerPoints, right to Excel spreadsheets. You can also download them directly to PDFs. So that is all really fantastic, but I have, again, two favorite parts within Google Drive, just like I did with Echosign, right? The first is, I'm sure we're all used to seeing that spinning wheel of death that you get on Word, right? So you're getting really close to the end, you maybe haven't saved it, you get the spinning wheel of death. 5 minutes later, you have to shut down Word completely and you have lost all of your work. With Google Drive, that doesn't really happen. It auto-saves about every minute or so. You don't even have to think about it. It just does it for you. So you're never losing your work. My second favorite thing is that, time is really money, right? So say I'm working on a document with Bob and Terry, right? I send it to Bob, I send it to Terry, it's a Word document. They both send it back to me with their track changes and their edits. I have to somehow take their consolidated work and put it into my own Word document before I send it over to Meghan, right? It's just a lot of different steps. It's a lot of overhead in your business that you don't need. Instead, Bob, Terry, and I could work in a Google Drive document together, right? I could export that to a PDF, and then I can send it to Meghan easily through Echosign, right? So it kind of just takes those steps and eliminates them. You can get done in maybe, a couple of hours what you would be taking an entire day to do. So that's really, what Google Drive is. It's free with your Google account. If you click in the upper right-hand corner, there will be a drop-down where you can go to Drive and Calendars, which Meghan will tell you a little bit about. Also, with Google and Gmail, you do get Hangouts. So this is something that we use at the Nerdery. Anyone who has a Gmail account has Hangouts, right? So I can easily just pull up an IM, send a message to my lead developer and say, hey, did you, I think this is on my next slide. Did you get my email about this? Are you at your desk? Can I come ask you a couple of questions? They can IM me back. I don't have to wait for them to email me back. I don't have to go to their desk and just stand there and basically intrude on their work, right? I can just send them a quick IM. Through these IMs, you also have the capability to do video conferencing like you would with maybe Skype or GoToMeeting. So you no longer need those things. It's just really easy to do through your calendar to include one of those links as well for the video conferencing Hangouts, and it has screen sharing and all the things that we're all used to. So then another thing that I probably just learned about a month ago, I don't even have this on the slide, but I had sent out an email through my Gmail account and I addressed my client as my lead developer. It was Brian and Ben. Too much coffee in the morning, typing too fast, hit send, and then I was like, oh shoot. Had to send a quick apology email. Sorry, Brian, in bold. Like, I know your name, don't hate me. He sent me an email back, said it was okay, but my lead developer was actually sitting right next to me and was like, hey, do you know about Google Labs or Gmail Labs? And I was like, no. So what they are is they're developed by third parties, right? But they're used to enhance your Gmail experience. You can find it in the settings tab of your Gmail account. The one that I downloaded and now I really love is called Undo. So if you think about it, when you're having like a bad internet connection, you send your email out in Google, you kind of get this tab at the top of your account that says sending, right? So next to sending, it will say undo, and you have about 5 seconds to quickly say, oh crap, undo, right? And then your email just pops right back up. It doesn't get sent, so it just kind of delays it for that short amount of time. There's also a lot of other really great labs that you guys can utilize and kind of customize to your own Gmail experience based off of what your needs are. Another thing you can use is Chrome extension. Sorry, frog. Chrome extensions. I'm not sure if you're using the Chrome browser, but if you don't, you should. I think it's the best browser because you can really customize your own browsing experience, right? And Chrome extensions is one of the ways that you can really do that. They're really underutilized, but if you were to just go in Google and type in, Chrome Web App Store, it's gonna pop up. You can really cater it to your needs. I can show it to you guys. I'm a little bit hesitant to do this again, but it's pretty cool. So if you think about, maybe downloading an app, right? Should probably sign out of here. If you think about downloading an app from either the iPhone store or Google Play, right? That's kind of what this is. So you're downloading these extensions, right? Probably not that one looks hard. You're downloading these extensions that are really just gonna help you work a little bit better. My favorite one is called Grammarly, and what it does is anytime I type, right, in a Word document, in a Drive document, in Facebook even, it not only corrects my spelling, it also corrects my grammar. So I really, really like that one. But like I said, you can really use it to cater to your own experience. There's password managers, there's Salesforce management. I know there's an extension for Evernote, which you guys are going to learn a little bit more about. So you can just use this to really help enhance and make your life a little bit easier maybe. So that's all I have to teach you guys. I know it's a very large brain dump. At the end of each speaker's presentation, we're going to leave a little bit of time for questions. So do you guys have any questions for me? No?
What kind of pushback have you seen with Echosign with maybe clients that are not familiar with that digital document format?
Yeah, good question. I use Echosign, I would say on a weekly basis, and I've only gotten pushback once. In the last maybe 2 years I've been using it. So one of the things that's really nice about it, which clients really love, right, is that they can sign a document anywhere. So they can sign it on their phone, they can sign it on their iPad, they don't have to be at their computer to print it off and sign it. Sometimes they don't want to sign it through Echosign because it's usually a lot of the larger companies with a ton of red tape and legal departments that they have to jump through. They're just slower adapters. But for everyone else, no problem.
How do you get around sending documents that are too large, like 25 megabytes?
Mm-hmm. I've never had an issue. As long as it's a PDF, it's okay to upload it into Echosign. Yeah. Sometimes if it is a really, really, really large document and I don't want to send the entire thing just because, right, I'll occasionally just create a one sheet that says I have read this document and then they sign that page, so it's an additional step basically in your workflow, but then you don't have to have them sign a 25-page document and store that. Anyone else?
What's the Echosign cost?
That's a really great question. I'm not 100% sure because all of my employers have absorbed it, but I think you could probably get a free trial based off of what I saw on their website.
How many people are you seeing using Google Drive? Is that outside of technology, is that being like accepted where people understand it and use it? Or are they more hesitant to, or like, what is that?
Yeah.
Just send me a PDF of it.
Yeah, it usually depends on whether or not the company is using Outlook or Gmail, or what I like to call Gmail. If they're using Outlook, usually they don't want to use Google Drive. They don't want to use Hangouts, because what that does is it forces everyone to use Gmail accounts, right? But I think, after seeing everything that Gmail can do for you today, between what Meghan will tell you with calendars, but also, Hangouts and Drive, you're getting a lot more bang for your buck than what you would with, say, Outlook. So if they're already using Gmail accounts, then usually the adoption rate is pretty high for using something like Drive, as long as you're aware of it, right? And that tends to actually be the problem, is that people have Gmail accounts, but they're not really aware of everything Gmail can do for them.
I got really good grammar, but what was that app?
Grammarly?
Grammarly?
Yeah.
Have you noticed any sort of limited functionality with Google Docs versus Google Docs or Google Excel versus Microsoft Excel?
So I will say that with Google Docs, I have not. With Excel, however, I'm not a professional in Excel in any way, shape, or form, right? I have done macros 5 times, for instance, but from others who I know are avid users of Excel spreadsheets, I know that they have said that there is some functionality that you get in Excel that you're not necessarily getting within Drive. However, if you're using it to, create spreadsheets and have spreadsheets talk to one another, Drive can really do all of that for you. Anyone else?
Can I add one thing to your Drive
Yeah.
stuff? Because we also use Google Docs and Google Drive, but we tend to use it a lot internally for collaboration, and then when it comes to actually sending the document to the client, that becomes a PDF or a Word document, so that they're not required to sign up for a Google account if they don't have one or don't want to get one. But it's fantastic for, like, if you're collaborating on a presentation for business development and you need 3 different people all contributing to that, the ability to have everybody working at the same time and seeing what each other is doing just makes that whole process really smooth and really quick.
Yeah. So if you guys have any more questions at the end, I'm happy to answer them, but I'm going to pass it off to Perry, who's going to teach you guys a little bit more about Google stuff.
Yeah, more about the Google ecosystem. So I'm not clear how many people here are familiar and use Google, but another one that you can add to that product list is Google Analytics. Before I get into Google Analytics, our company as well is heavy power users when it comes to Google. The Drive, spreadsheets, Excels, we're able to collaborate in a very effective way. So if you haven't had a chance to try some of those products, it's a great way to be able to just kind of get interested in it, play with it a little bit, and see how it might be useful for your organization. What I'm going to share with you today is one of Google's most popular products, which is Google Analytics. So Google Analytics is heavily used on websites. How many people here in this audience have played with Google Analytics? Oh, actually, a very small number of users. Okay, so I'm going to set it up this way. This is going to be introductory. I do offer talks on advanced level training when it comes to Google Analytics, and actually drill down approaches to looking at the stats and then making effective business decisions based upon those results. But this will just be an introduction. So Google Analytics, a couple of great things about this application. It's free. We love free. You can install it, you can basically install it very easily. There's a couple different ways. Number one, you can have your web developer put a little bit of code inside each page, and what it does is it allows Google to effectively track how people are behaving and how they're arriving at your website from every single page. Now this is important for you because it allows you to be able to have a metric on how your site's actually performing. If you think about it like your automobile, you have your speedometer and your tachometer and your fuel gauge. Google Analytics is doing for your website what your speedometer does for your vehicle. So if you don't have something like this already installed, then you could be driving blind when it comes to your website. Now, your hosting provider may provide some statistics, but they're generally under par when it comes to the level of sophistication that Google Analytics can provide. It's, as I mentioned here, it's an important metric for understanding site performance. And so once you're able to have it installed, it'll begin tracking and accumulating data. You can look at this screen here, which is considered your dashboard. It gives you a general overview of how your site's performing. And on the left-hand side, on the left-hand side of this column, it has a drill-down approach to very finite levels of detail. Okay, so imagine this. You're working for your employer, or you have your own company. One of the key things is trying to understand who your audience profile is. And we all struggle at that because maybe at varying points of your business, that may change. But for example here, Google Analytics will allow you to be able to interact with more clients. And we're all looking for more clients. And imagine this. Google Analytics can start providing you real-time data on people, such as to identify their age, their gender, and even their interest category. So if you're already a heavy Google user now, you're being tracked heavily. Everything that you go to, even your emails, everything is getting tracked. But how they use that data is that some of that data without your personal information is being shared in the Google space, including Google Analytics. So in addition to that, you can improve visitor flow and efficiency. So being able to understand how the visitors going through your website, what they're looking for, how they got to you, how long they stay, how many pages they've actually visited before they decided to either make a decision to make a purchase or schedule an appointment for a consultation or simply leave, right? They said, this is not what I'm looking for, I'm out of here. It can provide you a distinct competitive advantage, and here's how. Most people, unfortunately, if they have Google Analytics installed, they look at it once a month, or they don't look at it at all. They defer to somebody else to tell them what the statistics means, or they just don't look at it, period. And unfortunately, that's a detriment. However, if you are one of those who are actively participating in how your website is working for you, that's where you're going to have the distinct competitive advantage, because it's likely that your competitor is not doing the same. So while they're remaining stagnant or slowly falling behind, it gives you an opportunity to be able to surge ahead. And if you are skilled in being able to read the Google Analytics, you can bring back to the major stakeholders of your organization key decisions that could help affect the business. So for example, Bob with the Timberwolves, can you share with our audience how you use Google Analytics for the Timberwolves?
Yeah, sure. So on every single one of our websites, we have Google Analytics in the code, as he mentioned before. And with that, we're able to see in real time who's on our website, what they're doing. And for us, that's incredibly important because we have several different goals and objectives we're trying to accomplish on the web. One of them is obviously sell tickets to come to our games. So we're able to see how fans are coming into our site, where they're going, how are they navigating to the ticket pages, are they picking a game, are they purchasing the ticket. We're able to measure that whole flow of visitor traffic, and that's crucial for us. Because if we see people coming into our site and then leaving at a certain point, we know that we have a problem on our site, we need to fix it, or we need to reroute them, or maybe we're just not making our messaging very clear. So this is a huge tool for us that we use every single day. I mentioned I'm in Google Analytics every single day that I'm at work, and in most cases it's open all day long on my computer. So incredibly valuable for us. And you mentioned the age, genders, and interest categories. We use that data a lot to determine who our corporate partnerships might be best. You know, if we see a large number of our online audience, really enjoys, bottled water, for example, we might go and try to attract some corporate partners to join our organization, like Aquafina or Coca-Cola or something like that. So incredibly valuable data for us.
So Bob is considered a power user, but he has a lot of properties that he manages. Typically, I wouldn't recommend looking at your Google Analytics every day and having it open up on your screen. There are other things that you should look at, but typically, having it check on once a week, at minimum once a month, especially when you're going into team meetings, to be able to extrapolate that data and bring it forward and saying, this is how we were looking the past 30 days. Here are my recommendations for activities for the next 30 days or beyond. Another thing I mentioned here was analyzing visitor traffic. This here allows you to paint a true picture of what your audience is actually doing. far too often we're guessing. And even the web developers, as we're putting sites together, we're making assumptions that this is how they're going to flow, almost the equivalent of a airplane traffic controller. This is what this utility here does within Google Analytics. It tells you their start point, their entry point, and it tells you how they flow about the website. And that's really critical because, for example, if we're the Timberwolves and we have ticket sales right over here, that might be a problem because you're forcing the user to have to flow through multiple channels of pages in order to get to the end result, which is, I want to sell season tickets or maybe just game tickets. So ideally, we might want to move some of those elements over here. Other things you can do are implementation of what's called conversion metrics. And it's a little bit of code that you would put, let's say, on a thank you page or a completion of your order page. And that allows you to automatically track how effective the website if you have specific goals and objectives you're trying to achieve. So in his case, it might be ticket sales. In your case, it might be schedule a free consultation. And then when they land on that, you're going to get an automatic notification. So it's a very, very effective tool. The next thing a lot of people are concerned about is where their traffic is coming from. So this does have the ability to provide you a drill down effect based upon things like referral, organic search, paid search, which is things like Google AdWords, direct, and even social. And this number here is continuing to rise, and Google Analytics is actually putting a lot of importance around social, and it even has its own dashboard component to determine whether or not your social campaigns are effective, whether it be Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. The other thing, of course, organic search is rising quickly. And just a little tip for you. Quality content on a website now trumps your basic SEO strategy. Content is king. So that's the thing I can leave you with if you don't take away anything at all when it comes to how to get some of these numbers up is content. Okay. Advanced techniques in Google Analytics that you can implement are things like A/B split testing. So for example, if you have some promotions that you're going to be running in the spring or in the summer, you may want to consider doing a split approach whereby you'll have your homepage automatically display one or the second scenario. Okay? The great thing about that is then you can look at which one is actually more effective in terms of conversion. So in this particular case, we have this page and it's pulling up 16.67 conversion rate, while this one's pulling in almost a little over 45%. That's huge for you. So being able to do these types of tests and get real world results is key because that works you towards continual improvement. Now this is a technique that's heavily underutilized by the small and medium business owners. However, large business owners typically will implement this strategy very often, and they're running these A/B split campaigns on a monthly basis. So that's something to think about. What it does also allow you to do is, as you continue to make finite changes within your programs, either on the A/B split side, you can continue to adapt and get to a more effective web page. And an effective web page is one that somebody will be on. They don't have to spend very much time on at all. They see the calls for action and they engage with it. Okay. One additional tip I can share with you is heat mapping tools. This isn't a component within Google Analytics, but the heat mapping tracking tool allows you to be able to see visually where people are interacting on that page, and this can be translated back onto the A/B split side. So if you can see heat maps, generally people will start from left to right, top to bottom, and you can see where they're hovering. That can really help you to become a master when it comes to effectively making changes to your website. The last thing I want to share with you is this. A lot of people will look at their Google Analytics and they'll say, great, those are some awesome numbers. That's great, I can see that the bounce rate's going down. Or that's great, my conversion metrics are going up. Unfortunately, that's where it ends. What I'm going to challenge you to do is the following. When you look at the statistics, think about the baseline data, which is what you would see today, going backwards. However, moving forward, how do you want to affect the changes in those numbers? Do you want those conversion rates to go up? Do you want the bounce rates to go down? Do you want your traffic sources to vary? For example, you're going to do a major social media campaign in the month of June. How do you want those numbers to be affected? So the key here is if you can come up with key strategies to improve your website and improve your business through the actual metrics, that's huge. So that's what I want to challenge you to do. The other thing is share this information. Unfortunately, what we'll do is we'll look at the data, but we won't necessarily collaborate with other team members in our company. So it could be things like marketing directors. It could be people on the production line. It could be the C-level management. But they all, if they can understand how this data is working together harmoniously, you can actually affect bigger change. So if you keep the information siloed within your own department, then you're only going to be able to get so far. So if I can challenge you to take it and share with it abroad within your company, that's going to be ideal. And you can obviously use it to share some of that data with potential vendors. Like in his case, if there's a water vendor like Dasani we want to get into the fold as a sponsor, we're going to be sharing it abroad. So an extremely powerful tool. This is what I would consider just very introductory, but if you ever want to get into deeper levels of engagement and learning opportunities with Google Analytics, feel free to contact me. Questions?
Can I just add something real quick too? I think, like Terry was saying, it's kind of like driving blind to not have Google Analytics installed. So it's likely that your website already has Google Analytics installed, whether or not you know it. So it would be really beneficial for you to maybe reach out to your web development shop or see who has access to that before just going and installing a Google Analytics ID, right? Because if you start now versus looking back to where you have been, you're losing all of that historical data. So just be sure that, if you don't know whether or not you already have one, to look into it before you just try and install a new one.
Questions?
Can you see your competitors' websites data?
No, you cannot. However, there are other websites like Alexa that you can use in order to see an approximation of how their website is doing. Yep. Any other questions? Okay, I'll be available after if you have any. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Megan. That's not me. I am the Chief Operating Officer at Clockwork. We're a technology agency in Northeast Minneapolis. My Twitter handle is Irish Girl, if you want to find me on Twitter. So I like to think about technology, or I like to talk about technology more in terms of sort of how to think about it versus how to do a particular thing. And about 9-10 years ago, I read this book called Getting Things Done. My husband bought it in an airport and brought it home. And I read it, and it really changed the way I think about how I manage all of what this guy calls inputs. So all of the things that are sort of coming at us all the time, like physical mail, email, Facebook messages, tweets, texts, like all of these things that are all coming at us. And a lot of what he talks about in the book is how to move from dealing with everything in a latest and loudest manner, which is like whatever is just in front of you and seems to need the most attention is the thing you do, to moving to a structure where you're dealing with things in the priority order that they sort of deserve. And so he kind of goes through in this book this whole discipline of how to think about all of those inputs and how to process them a little bit differently. So the two things I'm going to talk about today are sort of related to principles that he talks about in the book. So I wanted to sort of recommend this as a great book for thinking about how to manage all of the things that all of us are trying to manage, both in your personal life and in your work life, and come up with structures that work for you on how to manage those things really effectively. My favorite thing about the book is that it has nothing to do with any particular platform or special notebook you have to buy or anything. You can do it on any platform you want. So over the past 10 years, I've used PCs, Macs. I've run his sort of way of thinking on index cards at one point. So you can really sort of apply these principles of thinking to any kind of technology, which I think makes it really flexible because technology is changing all the time. The tools are changing all the time. And what we really need are ways of thinking that help us choose the right technology for our needs. Have any of you guys heard people talk about like inbox zero? Like I got to inbox zero? One person, two people, okay. That came from this guy in this book, that concept of inbox zero. And when you read the book, there's a whole lot of things he talks about, but that was really the first thing that I adopted. So a lot of the idea of inbox zero is you have an empty inbox. A lot of people interpret that as meaning I got everything done. I have nothing left to do. I can go on a month-long vacation. I got to inbox zero. That's not actually what inbox zero means. What he's talking about in inbox zero, and one of the big principles of this book, is separating the processing of things from the doing of things. So in my email, for example, I go through my email inbox. I have 9 of them. I have 9 email addresses. So I go through those 9 email addresses, and somebody just like jaw dropped. Yeah, I have 9 email addresses. I'm a nerd, okay? Sorry, we have a lot of email addresses. Don't ask me how many domains I own. It's a lot. So I have 9 email addresses. So I go through those emails, and I make a decision about each email in a very short period of time. And that decision is this an action item or not? Yes or no? If it's not, then I need to file it or delete it, but it needs to get out of my life immediately. If it is something that I need to take action on, I have one of 3 choices. If it's less than 2 minutes for me to finish it, I do it right then and there, then it's done, out of my inbox. If I can delegate it, also an important skill to learn, I delegate it, give it to somebody else to do, not my problem. The third option is I defer it, something I need to do later. That also comes out of my inbox, and it goes into a separate area of things I need to do. So one of the things that I started doing after I read this book was I stopped using my email inbox as my to-do list. And that, I think, is a really important shift. How many of you use your inbox as like, these are all the things I have to do? I mean, it works in the sense that like you look at your inbox and you're like, wow, there's 200 things I have to do. But when you're in the moment of actually being ready to do something, now you have to sift through 200 items to figure out, oh no, that's directions to a meeting. No, that was this thing that I need to do. Like you have to reprocess something that you already processed. So one of the principles from this book that I really liked was don't think about the same thing more than once unless you want to. And email is almost never something I want to think about more than once. So he's got some really great sort of methodologies for processing your email in a way that requires that you don't have to think about them over and over again. You can like get rid of it or do it later and then figure out a way for doing that. The other thing that really changed for me after I read this book was how I manage my calendars. So this is my calendar, not just my calendar. So this is my calendar, my husband's calendar, and my kids' calendars. So let me kind of go through this. This is Google Calendar, but what I'm talking about does not require that you actually use Google. So a couple things. First of all, literally anything that I make a commitment to do that is related to a day or a time goes on my calendar. Absolutely religiously. Even the tiniest little things, like, here's a dumb one. Lumosity, that like brain training thing, I'm like really trying to do that. So it's on my calendar because I'm making a commitment to myself that I'm gonna try to do that. I can renegotiate any commitment that I make with myself or with other people, but if I make the commitment, it goes on my calendar. I also have, so everything in orange is all of my work commitments. So we use, at Clockwork, we use Google Apps. So I have a Google Calendar for work, and then I have my personal Google Calendars. And in GCal, you can merge all of those things together into one view. So I'm sort of at an advantage because my work and my home life uses the same calendar application. But I've done this exact same approach even when I was at a company that used Outlook and I had a handheld that was different. So there's lots of ways, depending on what calendars you're using, there's lots of ways to bring these views together. But a lot of people, I think, try to keep like their work calendar separate from their personal calendar. And again, a lot of what David Allen talks about in his book is those are all commitments you've made in your life, and they're very interrelated. So the more you can sort of bring together the way that you're managing all those things, the easier your sort of mental life will be. So I have separate calendars for each of the people in my family, which again reduces the sort of mental drag. I don't have to think about whose swimming lesson that is because I know that green is my daughter every time. I don't have to think about whose doctor appointment that is. I know based on the color of the calendar. If this view feels overwhelming to me, like most of the time during the day at work, I'm not looking at this view. I'm filtering only by what are the things that I'm doing in the office. You can also give other people access to your calendar. So all the items in red, that's my husband's calendar. So he's a lot less busy than me, as you can tell. So I have access. I can view his calendar. I can't add things to it, but anything that he puts on there, I can see, which is important. It's important for me to know that he's not going to be at dinner last night, so that's going to be on me. It's important for him to know that I'm going to be here this morning, and so I'm not going to be there to get the kids on the bus. So it really just helps you sort of collaborate with other people on what's happening where. The other thing that I think people really underutilize in calendars is all-day events and sort of using those as mental reminders of things that you need to know about on a certain day. So right now there's nothing too major on here, like it was my son's library day on Monday. I mean, it's a handy thing not to forget. He's a kindergartner, he's not gonna remember. Or on Friday, I need to remember to do an expense report because this is the exact day I'm gonna get invoiced for something that I'm expensing to the company. When I work in Northeast Minneapolis, I live in Golden Valley, and over the last several years, there's been construction on pretty much every single bridge that crosses the Mississippi. So when I drive by and I see the sign that says this bridge will be closed for 3 weeks or whatever, I put that on my calendar. So the morning that I'm going to work and the bridge is closed, I don't have the frustrating moment of like, God damn it, the bridge is closed. And I don't continue to do that for an entire week because I keep forgetting the bridge is closed. It's just on my calendar as an all-day event, a mental reminder that I don't forget. So in many ways, technology, and especially something like calendars, it becomes for me an external drive for my brain. I don't want to have to remember all that stuff in my head because my brain just can't handle it. I was visiting with a friend this weekend. I've known her for 20 years. I still can't remember her birthday. Like maybe it's in April, I don't know. So I need to, I have to write all this stuff down. It's just I cannot remember it in my brain. So thinking differently about how you use your calendar and being super religious about how you use it, even though it sounds so simple and so dumb, can really, really differentiate you from others. And again, back to that reminders thing, when I don't remember people's birthday. I'm a terrible person. But the minute that Facebook reminds me it's someone's birthday, now that goes on my calendar so that the next year I seem like a really wonderful person. So that's sort of the overview on calendars and kind of how I use calendars. And that principle of one of the ways that you can use technology is thinking about how can I outsource some of the memory storage outside of my head and into a system that I really trust, that's really reliable. And the key is it has to be a system you really trust. The minute I start putting things on my calendar that I maybe kind of sort of might do, but maybe not, this becomes totally meaningless. You have to be really strict about what goes on there and is it actually a meaningful commitment? Otherwise, this starts to look like stuff you don't have to worry about. So I'm going to shift gears and talk about another service called If This Then That. So another sort of principle I use for how can I use technology in my own life is how can I automate repetitive menial tasks, things that I know need to get done over and over again, or I want to get done over and over again, but I don't want to have to physically do them. So If This Then That, the website is just IFTTT, is a service that allows you to make what they call recipes. So you set up scenarios that have an outcome. So this top one is a recipe that I have that says, if Clockwork, my company, publishes a blog post, send me an email with that blog post. So the minute any new blog post goes live on our company website, I get an email. I don't have to subscribe to the RSS feed. I don't have to remember to read it. I don't have to find out about it somewhere else. I know the minute a blog post goes out. So what that's doing is, If This Then That is checking that RSS feed for me and then sending me the email when that happens. So I've had this recipe since December of 2013, and it's run 41 times. So 41 times it's done a task that I don't want to have to do. It also, so you can see other recipes that people have created, and there are a bunch of channels that you can use, what they call channels for If This Then That. Google is one of their channels, Google Drive, Google Calendar, pretty much the whole Google suite. You can connect it with iOS, with Android, almost anything that you can think of, and you can create your own recipes. You can also see recipes other people have created. So these are some examples of recipes other people have created. So this person created one that said, anytime I get mentioned on Twitter, put that tweet into a Google Drive spreadsheet. So if you're managing social media for yourself or for an organization and you want to have that data somewhere outside of Twitter, this can run and do that for you automatically. And then you can go into Google Drive and run reports on that information. They also launched a new service probably a month ago that they call the Do button, and they have them available for iOS and Android. But basically it allows you to create a recipe, and then it has a button on your phone. So this recipe is anytime you write a note in their Do Note application, it posts that as an update to LinkedIn. So it saves you the steps of like opening up LinkedIn, typing in your status, and then sending it. So if you're a person who updates LinkedIn a lot or wants to, this is a way to create sort of a one button step for doing that. Bob is going to talk about Evernote later. Evernote is one of the channels, so you can say anytime I do X, put that into a note in Evernote. So I was going to show you some of the channels, but I don't think it's totally necessary. If you go to the website, you can see all of the different channels available that you can hook up, and you can see popular recipes or other recipes that people have created. And it's super powerful. You have to kind of use your imagination for what's going to be really useful for you in terms of recipes, but it's a super powerful tool. And you can even use it for kind of repetitive personal tasks. So as an example, I live in a mid-50s house. I really like the kind of mid-century aesthetic. So I have a recipe that checks Craigslist all the time for the word mid-century and sends me an email anytime somebody posts furniture and other things that match with that aesthetic. So I can see if it's something I want. If it's not, what do I do in my email? I delete it. Otherwise, it gives me an opportunity to jump on that stuff really fast. So it's a whole bunch of ways that you can use this and customize it. So do you guys have any questions about calendars or this? Yeah.
Back in your calendar there for your Gmail, I do the same. My problem is when people send the request through Outlook or some other media chambers put out add this to your calendar, it doesn't feed on all devices between the iPhone, the iPad, or the computer.
Yeah.
Some things only show up on one device. They don't always show up. How do you alleviate that? Are there apps?
I have this really stupid hack for this, but it works. So I have an iCal set up on my laptop, and it feeds, and I have it connected to my Google Calendar, right? So you can sync up Google Calendar and iCal. You can open Outlook invites in iCal. So when somebody sends me an Outlook invite, I pop open my iCal, open their invite, accept it, and then it shows up in my Google Calendar. So the only reason that I have my iCal hooked up to Gcal is exactly for that one reason. There's got to be a better way to solve this problem. I just haven't found it yet. But that allows me to accept those invitations from Outlook that do not connect with
I believe
Google.
if you're using Gmail and you get an Outlook invite, there's a function within the email that says add to calendar, and if you're using Google Calendar, it'll automatically place it in.
Is that a Mac-based application, or is it a PC version of it?
Of iCal, no. I don't know how you solve that problem on a PC, but it's worth trying. I have not tried this, add to calendar and have it go directly to my Google Calendar.
And there are synchronization software. Google reads them and deprecates them every couple of years, but they've had Outlook and Gmail sync tools, as well as Calendar for both those. So on a PC, there will be solutions out there. I just don't know the name of the current one. And then, of course, Gmail will let you add it right to the calendar as well. So if you use the Gmail web app, that would just work.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Any other questions? Thanks, you guys.
David Allen's book changed my life. Yeah, I read it in August 2008. I even remember when I read it. I highly recommend getting it, but that book's about 15 years old. He's got a new one coming out. I think it's next month, so it'll speak more to your generation. He won't talk about pagers and fax machines. Okay. So I only have a couple of minutes, but I'm going to talk about Evernote. I'm not going to show you Evernote because for a very good reason. Whenever I talk about Evernote, I don't show what it looks like because everybody's Evernote experience is their own. How I create Evernote is very, very different from how someone else creates it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to provide you a very top, high-level view of why I think Evernote is a great tool to use professionally and personally, okay? And it works with all these tools that have already been mentioned. I use Evernote for everything. So every morning, I get my Google Analytics report. It gets sent to my Evernote. I use IFTTT. Everything I do triggers something to, like, for example, every time there's a meeting on my calendar, it triggers a note in Evernote that when I go to my meeting, that's where I take my notes. I use it for Google Drive. Every time I get an email with an attachment, IFTTT reads it and sends the Google Drive document into Evernote. So I use it for everything. So I just want to real quick run through a list of why it's a great tool to use. So you customize it to the way you work. So I use Evernote for everything. I use it for my GTD practice, my getting things done practice. I have my capture tool. I have my weekly reviews in there. That's how I work, how I do business. My team at work, they all work differently. So they might use Evernote differently. So you customize it really to the way you want to use it. You can set up notebooks. You can set up your own tags. You can set up your own rules. Evernote's a very, very powerful tool, which is why it actually scares a lot of people. They get in there for the first time, they create an account, and they say, I don't even know what to do. The key is just to start using it, and then you'll figure out how to best incorporate it into your work every single day. I'm in Evernote every single day. It's my main tool. There's 3 plans you can get. There's a free plan. Like Terry said, free is good, right? You can use just about everything Evernote offers under their free account. I am a premium holder just because I like to have the ability to store more notes. I'm a power user in Evernote, so I store lots of notes, lots of files in there, so I get more space. And there's also business plans available. So if you do have a small business, you can get an Evernote account for the company, and your personal notes are kept separate from your business notes, which are shared with the other people in the company. So just a great tool individually and within teams. Lots of add-on services and integration. So IFTTT is a great one. I'm glad you talked about that, because for Evernote, that's what triggers a lot of the things I do in Evernote. A lot of my RSS feeds go directly into Evernote. Whenever I get emails, even weather updates. So every single morning I open up Evernote and there's my weather report, because IFTTT triggered weather.com to go right into my Evernote. It's tagged weather. So I know what the weather is every single morning. I don't need to fumble on my phone, go to weather.com. So many different powerful add-on services you can use. Other examples, even if you're low tech like me, I like to write. This is an Evernote notebook. So I take lots of notes and meetings in here, and I can scan these pages, and Evernote can read different parts of the page based on little stickers I put up in the corner. It's just an example of the offline world integrating with the online world. So lots of different integrations there. I am a big NFC user. So I have an NFC tag here. So when I get home, when I'm about 10 minutes from home, I scan this NFC chip, and it triggers a whole bunch of things to happen. Turns my thermostat up at home on my Nest thermostat. It turns off the security system, things like that, and triggers an Evernote note. See, I'm really nerdy. I practice quantified self. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of that, but I basically track all my interactions, everything I do, and Evernote's my main capture tool for that. So I do a lot of NFC stuff. So a lot of different add-on services and integrations. It's everywhere on every device, even those of you with Windows phones. Okay, nobody. Yep, that's right. Okay, so PC, Mac, Android, iPhone, Windows Phone, tons of different devices. Evernote's everywhere, and that's great because in my position, for example, I have tablets and I have laptops and I have mobile phones, and no matter where I am, and with my premium plan, I get offline access. So if I got really important notes and I'm about to hop on a plane to go to league meetings or what have you, I can access my notes on the go from anywhere. So it's super convenient on the web. I pull it open now, but I have a lot of confidential stuff in my Evernote. But just a good example of no matter where you are, internet connection or not, you can access your Evernote. So that's really, really handy. And then, of course, sharing options and presentation mode. So I think this is really important. All of us would love you to use these tools. We think they're very, very valuable. They're life-changing. Evernote was life-changing for me in the way that it helped me organize my life. But at the same time, I can't pressure people who don't want to use Evernote. My team's a good example. I have 7 individuals on my team. None of them use Evernote. There are definitely individuals in our organization that do. But Evernote allows me the capability to still do the work and share it. So I'll give you a real quick example. So I head up the digital media team at the Wolves, so we do a lot with websites and things like that. And I have 2 designers on my team. So I may take a screenshot of a website using an Evernote tool called Sketch, and it'll take a screenshot of the website, and I can mark up the website, draw arrows and boxes and write little notes in there, and it saves it right to Evernote. Then what I do is right there from Evernote, I can then send that note to one of my designers. And I can say, hey, take a look at this website. I think we got to make some changes here based on Google Analytics. Take a look. He gets a link. He opens the link. It opens up a web presentation view of Evernote with my screenshot in there and all my notes. So great sharing capabilities. I can push Evernote to a lot of different things. I can email it. I can drop Evernote notes into presentations. Presentation mode is actually really, really a powerful tool. So now I don't even need to use PowerPoint anymore. I create my notes in Evernote, and then I bundle them up into a notebook, and I can present in presentation mode. So I'll go into a meeting, say last minute. CMO drops by. I need you in a meeting in 20 minutes, and I want you to talk about this and that. Real quick, I don't need to power up a PowerPoint presentation. I go into Evernote, I grab the notes that relate to that, throw them into a notebook, walk into the meeting, and can present it on a screen like this, like that. So super duper handy and efficient use of Evernote. That's just a couple examples, real quick. I only had 6 minutes because these guys had great tools to share too. But boy, I highly recommend it. Of course, I talk about Evernote all the time. I write about Evernote all the time. You can go to my website, bobstanke.com/Evernote, or you just go to my website and search Evernote, and you'll see every single case study I've ever written about how I use it. I manage my vehicle maintenance records in Evernote, everything about my vehicles, everything about my house, everything. So I think Evernote's a great tool. Any questions?
What's the difference between Evernote and OneNote that Microsoft has?
Yeah, very similar. Very similar. So I've used OneNote because we are a Microsoft shop at the Timberwolves, so we all have OneNote on our computers. We have a lot of people in our offices that use them. Very similar capabilities. You can, drop photos in, and you can drop, you can draw in there. You can make lists. Very similar tool. OneNote does have a free mobile app as well. I do have it on my device just because some people I work with do really love OneNote, so I've become versed in both of them. But very similar tools, hard to distinguish the difference. Both have web access, both have mobile apps, both very good.
Do you more often search for content in Evernote, or do you try and maintain structure and navigate the content?
It's a little bit of both, but Evernote's search feature is unbelievable. So I've gotten to the point where I've had up to 10,000 notes in my account. And so I'm relying a lot on search and saved searches inside of Evernote to be able to show me, I can type in a keyword that I know, like my car, my Chrysler 300, I have a saved search for that. It shows me every note, service record of everything that's happened with that vehicle. So instead of tagging it with my car, it can actually read inside all the notes. It can read inside of PDFs, which is really handy. So if I get the receipt from my car maintenance place, my shop, repair shop, he sends me a PDF, I drop it into Evernote. Evernote scans the entire document, knows all the words, so I can type in brake pads, just random search on brake pads, and it'll show me every invoice I've had on brake pads. So the search is very, very powerful. Yeah.
Great, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Who learned something today? Wonderful, excellent. Thank you all for coming. Molly, what is our handle on Twitter?
At South Metro YP. So everyone go on your phone right now and follow us.
At South Metro YP. You can interact with anyone on our panel there if you'd like as well. Track us all down. Thank you all very much for joining us this morning. Our next event will be in early May, and we're looking for something out at the Mall of America. So watch our Twitter handle for updates on our next event, and enjoy the beautiful weather. Thank you.
Thanks.